Welcome to Bloomington Today. I'm Emily Taplin. Thanks so much for joining us. First, we bring you the buzz. Mayor Tim Busse brings us the latest information about the impacts of COVID-19 on the city.
Hi Bloomington, I'm Mayor Tim Busse, and this is a special, in-depth council minute. In our videos and in the city council meetings over the past few weeks, we've worked hard to be factual, transparent, and straightforward as we've discussed the financial realities Bloomington is facing as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. I wanted to take a minute today to give you the latest update on the work that city staff has done developing options to balance the 2020 budget. To make sure we're all starting from the same place, I want to lay out some basic assumptions. First, as we've talked about, there will be a significant decrease in local lodging and admissions taxes. These two revenues represent about $10 million of Bloomington's $80 million general fund budget. Lodging tax revenue for 2020 was expected to be about $8.7 million, but we won't be anywhere near that number. In fact, a worst-case, slow recovery reduces that lodging tax revenue to about $1 million instead. Second, all levels of government, cities, counties, and the state need to prepare for the potential of significant property tax delinquencies in 2020. People are out of work. People are struggling financially. Hennepin County has extended the deadline for the first half payments from May 15th to July 15th, but unless things change dramatically very quickly, it likely won't matter. We will see a significant property tax delinquency rate, and we need to prepare for that reality. And finally, the city will also have program revenue losses due to facilities that are closed and programs that will be delayed or canceled. So, from a best-case scenario where the economic recovery begins in earnest in June, to a worst-case scenario where the recovery doesn't begin until January of 2021, the City of Bloomington's 2020 revenue shortfall is projected to be anywhere from $8.5 million to almost $17.8 million. Now, this is where we are today. These revenue projections are being continually updated and will continue to be refined as the year progresses. But right now, the 2020 revenue shortfall is projected to be somewhere between $8.5 and $17.8 million. So what are we doing about it? At the April 20th City Council meeting, staff proposed and the City Council agreed to a combination of budget reductions, deferred capital spending, unallocated carryover from 2019, and use of reserves to successfully manage a downturn that lasts into the summer. Let me take a minute to talk about each of these items. First, staff has identified cost-cutting service reductions of $2.9 million, which include things like eliminating seal coating in 2020. Leaving some full-time positions that are currently not filled open for the remainder of the year, delaying hiring of a number of positions, and all departments have identified reductions in training, part-time seasonal staff, supplies, and services. In addition to the service reductions, we've also identified capital projects and purchases that will be delayed or deferred, which will save about $730,000. That list includes things such as a brush truck for the fire department, an exterior restroom remodel at the Bloomington Family Aquatic Center, 7 fleet vehicles that had been scheduled for purchase this year, and a new fleet fuel system. If you watched the council meeting on April 20th, you saw that the council adopted the 10-year capital improvement plan, and you might be thinking, well, just cancel every project. I can assure you that until we have a better idea of the city's cash position, any project that is not already under contract or related to critical infrastructure is currently on hold. Even with the service reductions and deferred capital purchases, we will still need to identify an additional $5 to $14 million to offset the projected revenue shortfalls. Now, for decades, the City of Bloomington has had a policy of maintaining strong working capital reserves in all of the city's funds. It's one of the reasons why Bloomington has maintained AAA bond ratings from all 3 credit rating agencies. Those reserves are there to ensure that there are funds set aside for future capital purchases and to support city operations in difficult economic times. This is certainly one of those times. The plan is to use $3.9 million in reserves to help address the budget shortfall. But we need to keep in mind that we can't completely deplete all of the city's reserves. That would be fiscally irresponsible. But depending on the length of the recovery, we'll look at other fund balance reserves to see if those balances could be used without negatively impacting long-term financial plans. We also had some good news that 2019 revenues were higher than budgeted, and the city's investment interest revenue also did well in 2019. That means an additional $2.4 million that we can use to fill the gap. Now, if you've been doing the math in your head, you know that this combination of budget reductions, deferred capital spending, the use of reserves, and the use of unallocated carryovers from 2019, it totals approximately $10.1 million. With this plan in place, we're confident that Bloomington can successfully manage a downturn that lasts into the summer. We've all learned that this pandemic is working at its own pace. Staff is continuing to look at a range of solutions if the economic downturn continues into the fall or even longer. Next week at the City Council study session on April 27th, we'll be discussing additional options for service reductions combined with the use of reserves to balance the 2020 budget. Be on the lookout for a video after the study session outlining our discussion. Now, switching gears here just a bit, I've acknowledged all along that the city will be forced to make some hard and unpopular decisions as a result of this pandemic. As you may have heard, the City of Bloomington has announced changes regarding parks and recreations operations and programming in response to COVID-19. The goal all along has been to strike the right balance between maintaining recreational services, programs, and parks, while at the same time ensuring the health and safety of Bloomington residents. But given the reality of the moment, a number of programs, facilities, and events will be canceled, closed, or delayed until further notice. Trust me when I say these were difficult decisions for both staff and for the council. We certainly understand how important these summer programs are in terms of physical and mental health and community involvement. I also understand that for many families, summer programming provides an affordable childcare option. Most importantly, summer in Minnesota is far too short, and these are the things that make summer fun. The complete list is available on the City of Bloomington website. I encourage you to please take a look. The refund process is underway for folks who have already paid for summer programming. A couple of things that I do want to point out. First, it's important to remember that facility closures were based on public health safety standards and social distancing guidelines. So lifting of the stay-at-home executive order does not necessarily mean that distancing practices will also be lifted. Second, you probably know that golf courses are now open and that Dwan will be open as of April 22nd. But the city has decided not to open Highland Greens in 2020. Highland Greens is undoubtedly an important part of summer for many people, but the course has been operating in the red since at least 2005 and is currently being subsidized by property tax dollars in the amount of $300,000 per year. That type of subsidy doesn't seem appropriate right now. The city will focus its efforts on securing an agreement with the Minnesota section of the PGA to take over future operations and develop a home of golf for the state of Minnesota. Another note, Creekside Community Center is likely to be closed for the foreseeable future due to distancing standards, public health threat to the seniors, and facility maintenance costs. And our motor vehicle office will also remain closed because employee and customer safety could not be assured, and the services offered would not bring in enough to justify reopening. The operation is subsidized by the city, and further losses complicate our current budget issues. Now that's a long update. Thank you very much for sticking with me. As always, don't hesitate to contact me or any member of the City Council if you have questions, comments, or concerns. Stay safe, Bloomington.
On Monday, the City Council held its regular council meeting remotely. Mayor Tim Busse runs us through the highlights in this week's Council Minute.
Hello, Bloomington. This is Mayor Tim Busse, and this is your Council Minute recapping the April 20th Council meeting. At our April 20th City Council meeting, the City Council approved the 10-year Capital Improvement Plan, also known as the CIP for the city. I want to spend just a bit of time today talking about what the CIP is and what it is not. First of all, the CIP is, above all things, a planning document. The CIP is used as a tool by the City Council and the city staff to best manage the city's infrastructure and buildings and large equipment. The CIP provides better budget forecasting and enhances our long-term financial sustainability. This planning document is one of those reasons that Bloomington has maintained the highest bond rating possible for many, many years. All of our roads, trails, parks, all of the playgrounds and fire stations, all of the pipes under the ground, our staff has to make sure we are planning for all of those things to be in good shape and to be repaired or replaced at the right time. The CIP also allows us to plan for other projects that we have heard are wanted by the community, such as the expansion of the Arts Center or upgrading the Bloomington Ice Garden. The plan helps us to identify funding to support these projects. For many of these projects, it takes many years to get commitments from the federal government or the state of Minnesota or Hennepin County or the Metropolitan Council. That's why this document often has projects in it for 5 to 10 years before actually getting those projects done. It's also important to be clear about what the CIP is not. The CIP is not a wish list. The vast majority of the items in this plan are existing already, and because they are getting older, they need to be replaced. The CIP is not a blank check for the staff or the council. Items in the CIP are considered in the budgeting process, and many of the projects, because of the amount of the cost, have to be publicly bid and or approved by the City Council. The CIP is not a guarantee of spending. Approving the plan does not automatically approve all of the projects. The last thing I want to say about the 2020 Capital Improvement Plan is that this year it is clearly unique because of the current economic issues related to the pandemic. Our staff is evaluating all of the items in the 2020 schedule to see which projects still need to be done, which can be deferred, and if any should be canceled. Staff will be bringing additional information back to the City Council as updates to the 2020 budget. Bloomington has a city charter. In Minnesota, cities are organized in several different ways, but the simplest way to explain it is that cities are either statutory, meaning the powers and authority of the city are defined by the state legislature, or they are charter cities, meaning there is a local constitution of sorts that determines what powers and authority the city has. We don't spend a lot of time talking about the city charter, but there is probably going to be quite a bit of discussion about the charter this year. As many of you are aware, there's been a legal challenge by members of the community that would require the city to amend its charter related to the organized trash and recycling collection in Bloomington. This November, there will be a vote by the people of Bloomington on this issue. Even though the city has been operating an organized system dating back to 2016, the ballot question will ask residents to decide if the Bloomington City Charter should be amended to require residents to decide how garbage is collected. And if the charter is amended, a second vote will be necessary to decide if the current system stays in place or if it will go back to a system where everyone selects their own trash hauler. The specifics of the questions still have to go to the Charter Commission in May before coming back to the City Council, so there is still a ways to go on this. But the bottom line is this: residents will see a lot of information in the coming months about amending the city charter and talking about how the current system of trash and recycling is managed. Be sure to educate yourself before November. At the April 20th meeting, the City Council also discussed 2 other possible city charter amendments. The first issue was ranked choice voting. The Charter Commission looked at the issue in 2019 to get background information and to better understand how ranked choice voting works. St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, and St. Paul have all moved to ranked choice voting in the last few years, and there is a group of Bloomington residents who have been advocating that the City of Bloomington give residents the option to choose this form of voting as well. The Council directed staff to prepare an ordinance requesting voter approval of a charter amendment to adopt ranked choice voting. The ordinance will be considered at a public hearing by the City Council on May 18th, and if the Council passes the ordinance, it will go to the Charter Commission for review. A lot more to come on this one, so please stay tuned on this issue. The City Council also discussed a request by some residents to propose a charter amendment related to parks and park purposes. Residents advocating for this charter amendment wanted voters to decide if all decisions related to changes in parks that are not for park purposes only would have to be approved by a vote of the people. The Council struggled with this proposal because there is no definition of park purposes, and the effect of this proposal would override the city's ordinances related to parks, and it would create confusion about what authority the City Council has and what has to be decided by voters. This would create a voter mandate that doesn't exist for any other aspect of city operations. The City Council voted to not consider this proposal and did not direct staff to do further work on it. That's it for our Council update today. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Be safe, Bloomington.
Dewan Golf Course is open for the season. To follow social distancing guidelines, there are some changes to operations. You can find a full list on the city's website. And in order to address budgetary pressure caused by COVID-19 and the stay-at-home order, the city has decided not to open Highland Greens in 2020. The city is in need of election judges, and we're looking to you for help in this important civic role. Election judges are paid for their training and work on election days. Of course, training will look a little different now. The city will be taking safety precautions to comply with CDC guidelines by providing online training, and election judges will have protective equipment. The deadline to apply is May 15th if you would like to serve in the August primary election. Head to blm.mn/electionjudge to apply, or for more information, call 952-563-8729. Navigating a new way of life is something we can all relate to right now. Questions about safety continue to come in from people like you and me. Bloomington Police are taking time each week to give us some answers. Here's this week's Q&A with BPD.
Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Potts and I am the police chief here in the city of Bloomington. And we know there are some questions and maybe even some misinformation out in the community about the COVID-19 stay-at-home order and how the Bloomington Police Department is enforcing that order. And so we have taken the opportunity to answer a few of these questions here today.
Hi, my name is Lee Montoya. I live here in Bloomington, and I would like to ask the Bloomington Police Department how are they responding to crime during this time, and also how can the community report the crime to the Bloomington Police Department? Thank you.
Our staff are out on patrol 24/7, just like we always have been. So if you are a witness or a victim to a crime, certainly don't hesitate to give us a call. If it's in progress, call 911 to report it. That's the fastest way to get a police response. If it's a non-emergency situation, you can call our non-emergency line, which is 563-4900, 952-563-4900, and we will send an officer to the scene if we need to. There is one slight change over the last couple weeks. We are now taking more crime reports over the phone, but if the officer needs to come to the scene to collect evidence or to have a close-up view, we will send an officer. But we are doing a little bit more over the phone just because we think that's a safe and prudent thing to do during COVID-19. But I just want to remind people, the Bloomington Police Department stands ready to respond to any emergency, and the fire department as well, in medical situations. They're helping us, fires and medicals. The fire department is a partner of ours, so don't hesitate to call 911. We will be there to help you.
Hi, Chief Potts. My name's Mary Beth Fessler. I'm a Bloomington resident. I'm out walking my dog in my neighborhood right now. Speaking of neighbors and neighborhoods, one of my questions is what we do if we have neighbors who are concerned about during this time. Maybe neighbors we haven't seen in a matter of days or weeks, and wondering if it's okay to go and check on them or not. So any advice you can give us about that would be great. Thank you.
This is a great question. So what we're telling neighbors is, because we're seeing a lot of this out in the community where neighbors just want to check on each other. What you first should do is try their phone or try knocking on the door. The phone is the first bet because you can certainly do that through social distancing. If that doesn't work, make sure when you go to the door that you stay 6 feet away, knock on the door, try to make contact with them. If there are any, if you have concerns about their physical well-being or safety, and you're concerned that there may be an emergency situation inside the house, you can certainly call 911 and the Bloomington Police Department will come on out and try to assess and deal with that situation. But do check on your neighbors. We think this is a great time for that, to just give a call, send a text, knock on the door. It's a great way just to kind of tighten our community up a little bit right now and help each other get through this really difficult time.
Hi, Chief. I've been hearing some really great things about the neighborhood watch programs and the way that they're working, and I think being very helpful during these times. But just wondering if this would be a good time to promote the program even more and maybe get some new groups signed up.
Absolutely. You can look at the Bloomington Police Department website, look for the Neighborhood Watch button, and there are instructions on how to do this. We actually think this is a great time to do this. In many ways, the community during the pandemic has really shrunk down to the neighborhood. And we're seeing kids and their parents and maybe even relatives out walking, going to the park, interacting with their neighbors, maybe in ways they've never done before. They're kind of checking in on each other. And this is a great time. If you're not already a part of a neighborhood watch group, please check out our website, contact the Bloomington Police Department, because we want to help you get started with that. Thanks for reaching out to us. We know that this is some stressful times right now. We just want you to know we're here for you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to the Bloomington Police Department. We'll answer any question you have. And we just hope you're being safe and stay healthy. And we'll all get through this together.
This month, Bloomington Police had to say a heartfelt goodbye to one of their own. Retired Commander Jim Ryan passed away unexpectedly of a heart attack. He was 59 years old. He served on the Bloomington Police Department for more than 30 years. On April 13th, officers drove to his home to give him a silent salute for 1 minute and 55 seconds. His badge number was 155.
Jim Ryan was also the kind of guy that, if he was a part of a group or a team or in any kind of activity, he was going to be at the center of the activity. He was not a guy that just kind of fit into the background. In many cases, he would take units and make them even better because of his leadership. He was very, very, very devoted to the Bloomington Police Department, but at the same time, he was very devoted to his family. Kind of a rare breed that way, that he could juggle both. He could be very involved and committed to his professional life, but at the same time, incredibly devoted and committed to his family.
According to his obituary, a celebration of life will be planned for a later date. You may be seeing city maintenance crews working later into the evenings. That's to accommodate a new split shift. Rather than having everyone work the same time of day, crews are working a morning or evening shift to follow CDC safety guidelines. There's a half hour in between so they don't come in contact.
So what you might see if you're out and about or looking out your window, you may see crews operating fire hydrants, operating valves, cleaning sewer, at 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, where normally we might not be there, but we're there to make sure that the customer sees, that the residents see no interruption of those services, and as far as they can tell, it's business as usual.
A city stat for you: water usage is down noticeably. Utilities Superintendent Scott Anderson said when they first looked into the data, they wondered if water usage would be up because so many people are home and working from home. In fact, water consumption is down by about 10 to 15% because hotels, restaurants, and the Mall of America are closed.
Year to year, weather plays a big role. If you have a bunch of spring rain, that pushes consumption down. If it's dry and people are getting outside, consumption's going to go up. So there's more than one variable.
Typically, the city uses around 8 to 9 million gallons of water per day this time of year. We're currently at about 7. There are 2 weeks left in the city's curbside cleanup program. On Saturday the 25th, they're covering France Avenue to Normandale Boulevard. That's for those of you who regularly have a Thursday pickup day. The Minnesota Department of Health has a phone number for all of your COVID-19 related questions. As you can see on your screen, there is a number for health questions, housing questions, and school and child care questions. To keep you up to date on any changes, the city has a resource page for all things COVID-19 related. It includes information about closures and city services. Just head to blm.mn/COVID resources. These trying times can stretch our patience thin, but they've also stretched creativity. Like this handmade paper heart rainbow bringing some light in a dark time. We love seeing all of your creative expressions on our neighborhood walks. Betty Pearson has lived all of her life in Bloomington and turned 101 on April 19th. Her family surprised her with signs and balloons outside Presbyterian homes while she was adorned with a crown, sash, and cake by staff inside. Her daughter Jan said while she hasn't physically seen her mom in 5 weeks, they've been in touch every day via video chat. Betty's motto is never look back, keep looking forward. The family is looking forward to when they can celebrate in person with hugs and kisses. That is the buzz on Bloomington Today. If you would like to watch other stories from the show, go to this week's playlist, meet a Bloomington public health nurse who is using video chat to continue seeing patients. Thanks for watching.